All right, guys, welcome back. We're back with some more Xbox, Activision, Blizzard acquisition stuff because it is some big news. The CMA stuff over the last week has given us a lot of information on what is going down with this deal, the remedies that the British, the UK market authority is looking for, and we should see if any of that stuff's going to occur within the next 21 days or so, as Microsoft has to respond and provide answers to the remedies that the CMA is looking for. One of the things that we've talked about in my previous videos is that the CMA hadn't even taken into account the 10-year deal that Microsoft had offered to Sony, to Nintendo, and to Steam for Call of Duty. So I think that's going to play a huge role with these negotiations. But someone who's been extremely outspoken about this deal publicly on Twitter has been Lulu Chang Meserve, who is the company's head of corporate affairs. And if you've seen some of the stuff she has tweeted out, it's been really interesting to see that she's not backing down. She doesn't care. She even goes as far to tag the FTC. If you remember this, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, so January 30th when she put this out. She says, "Hi FTC, did you catch last night's episode of The Last of Us? It was incredible. No wonder the show is breaking records. It's a true blockbuster watched by tens of millions. If you haven't already, you should check it out. You may be particularly interested in the fact that The Last of Us is produced by Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions. It's based on a best-selling video game developed by a Sony-owned studio and published by Sony as a PlayStation exclusive." Now, I find that tweet actually really funny because it would be interesting to see if the people at the CMA knew that the Last of Us TV show was based off of the hit-selling video game. I know they probably did, and I know it's kind of absurd to think that they didn't, but there are a lot of people who watch these video game adaptations to TV, to movies, that don't know anything about the video games. It's a completely different crowd, a completely different, I guess, group of people overall. They're going to be paying attention to TV and movies versus just playing the video game. So she says, "Why does that matter? The FTC opposed the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal on the grounds that Microsoft could suppress competition from rival consoles by leveraging Activision games. It sounds like there's some worry that Sony's position as market leader could be jeopardized by this deal, but there's no cause for concern. Sony has an unrivaled war chest of IP, not just in gaming, but TV, movies, and music, which can be developed into games or can market existing games." And Sony and PlayStation, they've talked about this. I mean, they've really worked on building their IP so that they can be multifaceted, whether it's video games, movies, and TV shows, and then bringing those all together just to create this big Sony universe of all of their games, characters, and that type of stuff. So that's something that they're doing, and they do it pretty well. I mean, that's, I think, their strategy and goal moving forward is making their ecosystem not just video games. It's going to be encompassing all different forms of media. And you're seeing Xbox kind of do the same thing too. You see the Halo TV show, we're hearing about the Gears. I think Fallout has a show, and there'll be more stuff. I think also Grounded's getting a show. So there's a lot of stuff too on the Xbox side that they are seeing that they want to get into doing that stuff too. So a good point here by Lulu Chang Meserve. She also says, "Case in point, the TV show The Last of Us is already generating renewed interest in that game. Sony's talent and IP across gaming, TV, movies, and music are formidable and truly impressive. It's no wonder they also continue to dominate as the market leader for consoles. In gaming, Sony is the first of us, and they will be just fine without the FTC's protection." So that was her response to the FTC, as we know, sued Microsoft and are trying to block the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So she had an interview here with Axios, and she goes in and talks about how she's going to continue to do these types of things. She says here, "Probably going to do more like that," tells Axios regarding the Twitter thread. "It's like, if there are things that we think people should know about, we should just go ahead and say it out loud." And she acknowledges that this has created internal worry about the threads, and specifically targeting Sony and targeting the FTC, who are opposing this deal. She says, "We're a partner to them. Where were they worried about pissing us off when they tried to kill a really good deal that our employees wanted and that players wanted? Were they worried about pissing us off when they made all these claims that seemed to be pretty disingenuous? And we didn't take it personally. They're making the case for what's best for their business. So they're basically saying that, hey, this is business. This isn't personal. Sony is playing it as their business. We're playing it for our business. Sony isn't worried about pissing anybody off, because they're doing everything they can to try to block this deal, which I think is going to hurt their relationship going forward with these companies, with Microsoft, with, well, I guess Activision Blizzard. Whether if it goes through, it'll be Microsoft, but if it doesn't go through, again, with Activision Blizzard going forward. So that's going to be interesting to see, and we'll see what other things Lulu Chang Meserve has to tweet out, what she's going to be tweeting out, and if she calls out the CMA, if she calls out the FTC. And it's always fun seeing those threads and the reactions to it. But she wasn't the only one talking about this. Bobby Kotick was also talking about this deal some more, accusing Sony of trying to sabotage the acquisition. And he says this specifically. He says that, speaking with the Financial Times, expressed concerns that ideologues were taking over the agencies and claimed that Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO and other executives has stopped returning calls from Activision and Microsoft, which is crazy, because one of the things here that I think is going to have a huge effect going forward is Sony's reputation and relationship. How big of a hit is that going to take? No matter what happens here, if the deal gets blocked or if the deal goes through, these companies are going to be very annoyed at Sony, and the entire industry is also looking at Sony and seeing what they are doing, and are probably thinking to themselves, if we try to do an acquisition, if we try to make these moves to further our business, are we going to be going up against Sony? So I think this is really going to hurt their overall reputation. And Bobby Kotick continues and says here, suddenly Sony's entire leadership team stopped talking to anyone at Microsoft. I think this is all Sony just trying to sabotage the transaction. The whole idea that we're not going to support a PlayStation, or that Microsoft would not support the PlayStation, it is absurd. And Sony didn't respond to this. There was a request from the Financial Times, and they said, we are in contact with Microsoft and have no further comment regarding our private negotiations. And if you remember, Kotick also recently said that he is optimistic about this deal and that he expects it to close by July of 2023. So crazy that this relationship is really taking a hit. And you have to remember, Call of Duty is PlayStation's biggest game pretty much every year. They have those marketing rights, and I believe it was either 2020 or 2021, Sony was Activision's biggest customer. So it's not just a small relationship, it is a massive relationship going forward that is going to be a lot different whether the deal goes through or not. Sony's reputation, they're pissing people off, and we'll see how this affects it. And if it doesn't go through, you know Microsoft's going to be pissed off. Microsoft has way more cash than Sony has, and they're going to be probably going out there and trying to spend that cash, and probably trying to spend that cash in order to directly compete with PlayStation and directly beat PlayStation, which is something that they've always tried to do. But Xbox and Microsoft, Phil Spencer, they come across as like the nice guys. They don't want to step on any toes. They don't want to hurt any feelings. And I feel like if this deal gets blocked, that may change. And that will be another thing that will be fun to watch or interesting to see as the industry changes and as this entire real life console war, Xbox versus PlayStation, is going on right in front of us. But that's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff, what you think about Lulu Chang Meserve and Bobby Kotick's comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.